What a magnificent looking motorhome. It's kind of weird watching someone else drive our motorhome, and then driving up on this rack was really interesting. We've never had it up in the air before. Hey everybody, David with Tigner Adventures. We are at the transmission shop right now, and these guys also do exhaust systems. We are going to be looking at getting a new exhaust replacement for the pipe that I ripped off last spring when we were out in the Black Hills of South Dakota with that stump that I ran over. So anyway, we're going to get that taken care of and check out some other things to see what other things that may need to be done in the future or now on the rig. It's almost 19,000 pounds lifted into the air. So this is the old exhaust system, and it's a pretty big size exhaust, but you look here and you can see how I finally had to just screw the thing together. It was just coming apart, and it just was really tough to keep working. Sounds good. Adam is showing me the new system. It's kind of a small muffler, but he's showing me the new system, and boy, it is solid now, all welded together.
The area we were worried about with leak. Yeah, just leave. There's a plug right up here, right where my finger's at. I don't know if you can see it. So right by the speed sensor, there's a plug.
Okay.
Okay, you crack that plug open. If there's any fluid, if it's full, fluid will come out. If not, then you got to add some. Okay. Okay, it's a 17 millimeter socket.
Well, I have returned from the muffler place. That's this pretty small muffler, but works pretty good, sounds good, and it's not really any different sounding per se than what the big one that was on there. Adam said that this has a more throughput on it, less restriction, so we should get better gas mileage, so that'll be nice. We'll try that out. It's kind of hard to believe that little muffler though, and those different little brackets was $450 just for parts. So it's like, wow, expensive stuff, I'll tell you. They charged they charged $140 an hour for labor, and it was 2.5 hours of labor. So, you know, for basically $900, I finally got that replaced. That has been an issue since we bought the motorhome. Like I said, you know, showing you the old muffler, how it was rubbing on the driveline. The brackets kept breaking. The little bracket that would hold the tailpipe onto the muffler kept popping off. I went through 2 or 3 of those little brackets and tightened them down as tight as I could get them, but they just didn't last very long, and it just kept coming apart. So it's nice and solid now, so I'm pretty excited. But again, that was Team Ramco. So they are located here in Yuma, and they do transmission work and exhaust work. Now, they did mention that my brake assembly, which is my park brake attachment, is right at the end of my transmission, just before it goes into the driveline, was leaking. I'm not so sure it's leaking that much. I've noticed that it has, you know, some, you know, wetness to it, but I've never seen it actually drip anywhere. And when he opened up the plug to check it, it actually was overfull, so it kind of a bunch poured out. Which he said the reason for that is because the seal from the transmission is leaking, and so it's all going in there. I really think, and what I was trying to explain to him was, when we first bought this, we had about 3 quarts of oil more in the transmission than what it was supposed to have, and you're not supposed to overfill any one of those oil reservoirs really. And so what happens is that it creates pressure and it pushes it out through the seals and things. So I'm thinking that's what kind of happened, and that's just leftover stuff. But you know, as long as it has oil, it's better to have oil than no oil. So the fact that we have oil is good, and I will just keep an eye on that, and if we need to, that's something that we'll replace down the road. But for now, it's working, and I'm not going to worry about it. The expense is like $2,000 to have it completely rebuilt with new bearings and new brake shoes. The brake shoes are for the parking brake. Parking brake works fine right now, and so I'm not going to worry about that part of it. There was some issues when they pulled it up onto the rack. A whole bunch of antifreeze went pouring out on the ground again. I don't know why it does and then it doesn't. You know, it's just the weirdest little problem. And so they did refer me to a place, so we're going to go check out that place to give them a call, see if I can get the rig in there and get that taken care of. We have made it to our second stop. So the other place that did the muffler work didn't have space or time to work on the water pump, but they referred us to this place. Come to find out, these guys actually work on a lot of large, very large rigs. So they come fairly, very highly recommended, and they are a chain. There's like 4 or 5 of them. There's some in Phoenix and then one here in Yuma. So we have brought our motorhome over here this morning, and we are dropping it off today to get the water pump replaced. This is the nagging problem we have had all last summer. I'm excited to get this out of the way. Well, it's taken longer than we wanted it to, so we are packing up as much as we can, because we're going to have to go stay somewhere else tonight because they are not going to be done. It's almost 4 o'clock and they have not removed the old water pump yet, let alone getting the new one on. It's been a little harder than they had hoped, but that's how it goes. So we'll just give them the time they need so we can get it done right. That's what's important. This is going to be our bed tonight, I guess, since we didn't get our rig back. It's nice that we got this air mattress last year just for this situation. Well, good morning. A little bit noisy night. Got a little cold last night. It's 46 degrees this morning, so that's something. But I started thinking during the night. I kind of woke up. You know how it is? You can't sleep. Sometimes things nag at you. When I was talking to the guy yesterday, he says, well, you said you needed the water pump replaced. That's what we're doing. So anyway, I'm going to go back down there this morning to look at what's being done and to talk with the guy down there and everything, make sure that we're all on the right page. For the amount of money, they charge $157 an hour, which is fine. I mean, there's a lot of hard work in there, but I just want to make sure when we're done, I don't have a problem anymore. So that's I'm going to go check on that this morning. Well, I just got back and I did get to talk to Josh and kind of go over some things down there. He's the guy that I originally placed the order with, and they are taking care of everything. So made sure that we're on the right page. So Ninette says that sometimes I think that people can read my mind. So I wanted to make sure he understood everything so that both of us would have a positive experience with this. So I think it's going to work out well, and he reassured me that things are going to be good. So anyway, I did buy my water pump from O'Reilly, and they are a Napa care center. He was saying that if I would have had them buy the pump, that they did have a 2-year warranty that they provide all around the country. And the reason I bought O'Reilly was because I can, you know, get the water pump replaced anywhere around the country if I do it myself. So I still have the warranty on the water pump. I just don't have the warranty on the labor. And to me, that wasn't a big deal. So I didn't realize they actually offered that, but that's something to be aware of with them. But otherwise, I think it'll work out just fine anyway. So I think it'll be good. And it was kind of interesting to see how it's all set up in the engine. So now the next thing is that we'll just wait for our call, and hopefully we'll be able to get something today, be able to pick the rig back up today. Well, things have changed. So I'm back down here and ran into a few problems. So the little spacer that I figured was there is actually the timing cover, and there's a gasket around that. That's where it's really leaking. It wasn't really the water pump per se. It was old, but you're supposed to replace them after about 100,000 anyway, and we're up into the 80s right now. So, but the problem is they've got to be able to pull that timing cover off there to replace that gasket also is going to require them to pull the pulley off the crankshaft. No, don't know if they can pull that off without removing the radiator and everything up front. So it's becoming a big job. So we're looking next week before we can get the motorhome back, and it's based on $157 per hour labor. So no estimates. They say all we do is just the time. That's all we can do because motorhomes are so difficult to get into and work on. So right now everything's tore apart. So they at least have the water pump out and all that stuff out, so you can really see a good picture of it. So they're getting a good view of how it is, and it's probably something that would have been very difficult for me to do anyway. I just wish I would known a little bit more what was going to happen, but it's tough. It's tough. I don't know. This is going to be a little bit rough. Well, they got the timing cover off and all cleaned up. It looks really good. Unfortunately, they also broke the old one, and when I asked about it, they said, oh no, it was already cracked, which is a little hard to believe, but not sure what else I can do about it. They at least found another one at O'Reilly's, so they've got the replacement to put on there. Well, it's looking nice, and we're just waiting for a couple bolts for the oil pan connector, and we'll be done. So he's going to continue putting everything together. All right, this is the finished product. Looks nice. They're saying that this tensioner right there needs to be replaced. Squeaking. That's something I can do myself, so I'm not having them do it. So the rest of it all looks good though, so we'll just try it out and see how it works. It does have a 2-year warranty or 24,000 miles, so we'll see how that all works out. All right, we are back. Things are here. It's nice to have our home back, and I'll tell you, don't want to ever do that again. So there's a few things that have to still be done. They said that the tensioning pulley is bad and I need new belts. And they said, do you want us to do it? And I go, no, I will do that myself. I probably should have done it all myself. But anyway, it is done. Seems to be working okay. So we will just do some little tests now to see how things are going. If it make sure everything is working before we are going to be taking off. We have a few more things to do before we take off on our trip this summer. So we'll get working on those things, and this is the time to get all the work done before we take off. So this was the plan. This is nice to have out of the way. This was last June that we were just barely entering Canada for our very first time that we started noticing a major problem, and we went through the whole summer with it and figured that we'd fix it when we got here. But then I kind of was thinking, well, maybe I'm getting, I was actually kind of lazy. So I thought I'll just wait till I get to our daughter's house in Georgia. But then after we took it down to get the exhaust done and all this fluid came rushing out, it's like, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but we better get it fixed now. I don't want to you know, we got a long ways to go all the way over to the East Coast, so we might as well get it done now and not have to worry about it. All right, so let's talk about the parts that we did with that. One thing I found out is apparently when you go to these places, remember I do most of my work myself, so I don't really run into this because I just go to the parts house and buy my parts, but the parts they charge for, they're basically about double or 2.5 times more than what you would buy them if you just went to the parts store. And they said that the reason for that is that helps offset the expenses that the mechanic has getting the parts and all that stuff they don't charge you for. Whatever the case may be, that particular job now, getting the, so it wasn't just the water pump. And part of the frustration was that when I talked to the guy over at Team Ramco, he says, oh, it looks like the water pump's bad. And another guy told me that. So that's just what I mentioned to the, you know, that guy, Josh, you know, is that, hey, you know, apparently my water pump's bad and it needs to be replaced. What the other mechanic that talked to me as I walked out to my rig said they were going to check it all out and let me know, which they didn't, until I started saying something, you know, a day or so later that, hey, you know, there might be more there than just the water pump. You know, are you checking it all? Because you were supposed to call me and everything. And that's when they informed me that there was some more problems and that it was going to cost, you know, take longer than what they had expected. And it kept being like a day. But when I would look, they didn't realize that I do have security cameras, so I see everything that's going on, and they weren't in the rig that much, you know. The day they were supposed to start, they didn't start until late in the afternoon, which is understandable. They probably got delayed on some other jobs, so, you know, that's how it goes. So we ended up another day, but the one day that they said, okay, well, all the parts finally came in, this is after they broke well, they said they didn't break the timing chain cover, that it was already cracked, but who knows? And it doesn't matter because it's 30 years old, so I'm sure that the seal, because the thing that got me going on this is that the mechanic said I was trying to get the seal out and the cover broke. The receptionist lady that is like the or the wolf in sheep's clothing said to him, shh, here's your part, go away. And it's like she's the one telling me that, oh, I was all bad and we got to charge you for it, which I'd just be honest, that's all I cared about. So that's why I was kind of frustrated with the whole thing and really kind of irritated with it. But in the end, it's a good job. The mechanic did a nice job, nice and clean. They charged me 14 hours of labor. Remember, it was $157 an hour. So they only charged 14 hours, even though they had a week. So it was a full week. And normally, you know, mechanics get them in, they're working on all kinds of jobs, and they're not really working on your time frame. So that's what I'm not used to. I'm used to just doing it myself, and I just do it, right? In this case, I'm depending on them. They should have really just kind of told me up front, it's going to take a little while, just relax and we'll give it to you when you can. It would have been nice if we could have been living in it while it was there. I mean, if they would have parked it out front, we would have been fine. I don't understand what the issue was. Team Ramco, they let you live in it while they do all the work on it. So it would have been nice to have done the work there instead. But you know, that's how it went. So anyway, then they charged a bunch in parts. So the labor came out to about $2,200, and the overall job was by the time they put the parts in there in the shop, materials and things like that, it ended up being $2,900. So $2,900, they replaced the water pump and the water pump gaskets, and also the gasket and timing chain cover on the engine, and put all new hoses on. So that's all done, all brand new clamps, and so it looks really good. I think it'll be okay. One of the things I was kind of concerned about too is they said that the, you know, I mentioned that the tensioning pulley was bad and that the belts needed to be replaced. Now, I said I'll just take care of that myself, and as we drove home, it just squealed a lot all the way home, and it never did that before we went down, so that was kind of annoying. Well, when I really got in there and dug in there, I went ahead and just replaced both belts. They didn't seem to be bad to me. They looked good, so I think the belts were fine, but the alternator belt had like this much play in it, I mean, it just wiggled all over the place. It was very, very loose. It should not hardly move at all. It moves like, it's supposed to be like a quarter of an inch when you push on it, depending on where you push on it. But anyway, it had a lot more play than it needed to. I'm thinking that's what all the squealing was. But the system also, over the last few years, every time I would go into overdrive or just hit the gas really quick, the engine would squeak for a second because that one belt that's on the air conditioning line would slip just a little bit, and that really was the tensioner, wasn't keeping that slack tight. And so I did replace the tensioner, and it works very good now. So just getting the parts though was kind of interesting. I had to finally go to Ford to get the right belt sizes because they just weren't coming up correctly, and neither was the tensioner. When I finally got the numbers from Ford and brought those numbers back, and these are the places that on the sheet that I'm looking at here, they gave me this diagram and they showed me, and they were saying these are the part numbers, Ford part numbers that are all discontinued. So Ford doesn't sell any of that stuff anymore. But I took that back to O'Reilly, and the guy looked it up. And interesting enough, that morning before I went down to Ford, he had found one that looked like my old one and said, well, this is off of a Ford Mustang, but it looks like the same part. And it's like, I'll go to Ford and make sure I get the right one. Well, when I came back and gave him the part number, he pulled it up and he goes, well, that's the one I was showing you. So for whatever reason, I have no idea, but a Ford Mustang belt tensioner is what's on my engine for my belts. And it's just something that, you know, when they're building these motorhomes, they get this stuff from the factory, from Ford, and then they modify some things and change things around to accommodate the way that they're putting everything together and how their frame's going to fit on there and everything on top of the Ford frame. So anyway, pretty interesting. So with that said, it's done. Appreciate all the people that worked on it and the hard work they did and things. I think things could have been better in some ways. There's some things that we weren't real happy with that we've kind of outlined in things, but you know, that's how it goes, you know, when you're without a house. Now, if they would have told us that we were going to be without a house for a week instead of one night, we probably would have made other arrangements, but it kept just being one night. Oh, now it's going to be a couple nights. So anyway, that's how it goes. It's all done. So thanks for coming along on this adventure. It was a major adventure for us, and we're glad to have it done and looking forward to moving forward. So with that said, you know, hopefully we'll see you down the road somewhere, and if not, we'll see you on our next video.